Good evening. I sure wished I could be there with you celebrating tonight's nominees and recipients of Nightingale's Awards. My name is Michele and we have chosen this closing program to be all about you, how to navigate your ship through today's storm. Things you might need to know or care to know about me is that I've worked in healthcare for over 30 years. Since 2005, I've worked specifically with over 50 different hospitals with the goal to improve the patient experience through process improvement and employee engagement. And I'm very proud to say that one of my clients, Memorial Hospital in Carthage, Illinois, in 2020 and 2021, earned the coveted 5-star status from CMS. And I live in Des Moines, where I love spending time with my significant other, Greg, my 2 labs, and my 4 fabulous grandchildren. Well, we have all gone through the storm, and it's been quite the storm. In fact, as I think about you in Louisiana, you guys have had the perfect storm, not only dealing with the pandemic as a healthcare professional, and then you add on top of that the hurricanes. And I couldn't imagine what you must be going through, both professionally and personally. I saw this saying from Beyonce, and I use it because nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. And I've struggled that my entire 60 years. If everything was perfect, you would never learn and you would never grow. And boy, have we grown through this pandemic. You've learned in healthcare a lot of new best practices. Telehealth has gotten great traction as a result of that. I can't count how many masks you must have worn through the pandemic. I know you're tired. I know that you've had some extremely challenging, frustrating, very emotional days. I want you to know that in honor of Florence Nightingale this evening, she would be so proud of your efforts and your accomplishments. But my goal with our time together is to help you know that when you come out of this storm, you won't be the same person that you walked in, and that's really what the storm is all about. So what I want to give to you this evening is, how do you survive and even thrive? First of all, as I've now been re-engaged with my healthcare clients, one of the things we talk about, it's just nice to know that we're all in the same storm and that we're not alone. And I hope that you feel that comfort with your coworkers, with your family, with your friends. I know as nurse leaders, you're taking a team and navigating to the best of your abilities. And for all of what you're doing, I say thank you. Everyone's been affected. Healthcare, schools have been affected. How many of you have kids that have been in and out of the classroom? How many of you wanted to go on a family vacation but couldn't because you couldn't travel? So one of the keys to helping organizations that I work with, as well as individuals, is to remember to use a skill that we all have. Some come out a little bit easier than others, but that is agility. We're all flexible. Some are a little more flexible than others. But agility, by definition, is the ability to adapt. It's your ability even when it's hard, and it's been very difficult. In these difficult times, my message to you as healthcare professionals is, I know you are in the business because you have a passion to take care of others. And for that, I thank you. I applaud you. I am so impressed with the volume of energy that you commit. But I also know that you have got to not burn yourself out. So you need to first and foremost take care of yourself. So tonight is about you. And if you're watching with some friends or some fellow coworkers, turn to the people to your left or right or around you. Do a little toast if you've got a glass in hand, and tell them tonight is all about you. So what I'd like to do is share with you 8 types of self-care. And if you'd like, you can look at the handout that was sent to you. And I'm going to share with you some of the ways that I have learned how to survive and even thrive during these past almost 2 years now. The first is physical. I am willing to take a nap. On the weekends, if I feel a little bit worn out, in fact, last week, and I was struggling with some kind of stomach bug, my dogs and I took a power nap. I also may not be good at going to the gym Many hospitals might even have a wellness center, and I encourage you to take advantage and make time for that. I sometimes try to work in my day, which means I take the stairs instead of the elevator. If I'm parking in a parking lot, I'll park farther away and then I'll get more steps. Home improvements, that's a great exercise for physical energy. We've been working on a bathroom remodel. I've been doing a lot of gardening. That's one of the things that I'll talk a little bit later about is one of my hobbies. But that's a way of getting some physical exercise. As far as diet, I would encourage you to think about eating foods that represent the different colors of the rainbow. You know, I've already had my blackberries and strawberries for the day. Breathing. You know, one of the things that we need to do is just take a time out and take a deep breath in. And sometimes we really have to let it all out, and that's okay. We need to catch our breath. And then the last strategy that I've used is to learn to turn off the noise. Yes, even when I'm driving, I will find myself listening to just myself. And sometimes it's just silence, and that's very healthy and rewarding. The second type of self-care is emotional. I know that you are under stress. There's two different types of stress. When we talk about it in healthcare, you need to realize that healthcare as an industry is very stressful to begin with. You have a lot of uncertainties. You have a lot of interruptions. So if you are a person who needs to have every day planned and every day executed as the plan, you're probably not going to survive in healthcare. So part of what you need to do is embrace the fact that we are in a very chaotic and a constantly changing world. And if you can embrace that, hang on, that will actually be some adrenaline that you can use. But I will tell you, and I know that several of my healthcare professionals have decided that, you know what, this profession has been challenging and they're cutting back on some time. And if you need to do that for your own personal or your own family, I hope that you work for an employer who understands and represents that. Choose your response. I wrote a book called Attitude, The Choice is Yours. And one of the things I believe is attitude is one of the most important choices that you make every day of your life. Whether you get 8 hours of sleep, or earlier this week, I was up early at 3:30 to get ready for some training I was doing down here at a hospital in Missouri. So regardless of what the weather is, how many hours of sleep, or what you have to do that day, you choose your response. You can choose to have a great day and get the most out of it, or you can choose to have a bad day and try to ruin it for everyone else. And by the way, there is a special offer on the handout. If you would read closely, you might even be able to get a copy of that book. Oh, theme song to Frozen, Let It Go. You know, we need to learn how to not hold on to emotional baggage. I'm down here in Missouri doing a leadership retreat, and one of the exercises we did was either go get it or get over it, which means if somebody's done something wrong, maybe you need to get more information. So go ask and have a conversation with them. But if it's something that you need to not spend any more time on, put it aside and move forward. The power of touch. As you know, healing is a great way of the medicine of compassion, as I call it. And that's what's been one of the difficult parts of the pandemic. So one of the ways that you can, in fact, show that power of touch is on the forearm, or maybe on the shoulder. Or I know you all have been wearing masks. You know, you can see a smile through the mask by smiling, and it's called smize. In fact, earlier this week, one of the nurses said winking. She starts to wink. And I thought, you know what? I never thought about that. But winking is another good way of expressing some kindness. And then finally, I did this once. I had a manic Monday, and I called it my emotional mental health day. I think it's very important for you to know that it's okay to call a timeout in your day, in your life, for your own well-being. The third type of self-care is social. And when we talk about boundaries, one of the things I want to make sure that you give yourself permission to do, again, is to know that when you say no to someone, someone that you can't do something right that moment, but you might be able to do it later. No is saying yes to someone or something else, which means, you know what, I can't do it now, but I could do it on Monday. You're at least being honest, you're being transparent. Find quality time with a friend or with a group. I have a long-standing group of girlfriends that get together once a month. And during the pandemic, we got creative and we did some drive-by birthday parades. We used FaceTime to have a virtual happy hour. So think creatively about these kind of schedules and make them connections that happen on a regular basis. Use your phone or FaceTime. I love the fact that my teenage grandkids have been FaceTiming me. That's just a delight. And remember ultimately that Superman and Superwoman were cartoon characters. You can't do it all. I know that at the end of the day, you're exhausted and you may have that guilty feeling like you didn't do enough, but please know and say to yourself that I did my best and that was enough. The fourth type of self-care is spiritual. Now, finding time for yourself, some alone time. And I have a couple of different strategies that I like to use. Just like your car, you need to refuel your emotional well-being. And so maybe you have a pretty long commute into work. Maybe you want to drive around the block before you head home or before you head into the hospital. Maybe you have a cave. Maybe you have a she shed that you go out and have some alone time. The Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the courage to know the difference. And I can't remember right now, I'm put on the spot, but you know the deal. Know the wisdom to change the things that you can, accept the things that you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. Get fresh air. Open the windows, let the sunshine in. If you, like me, have some dogs, take them for a walk. I know if you're like me, if they hear that word, better get ready to go. So get out and get some fresh air into your lungs. And then journaling. How many of you have ever journaled? This is a very self-awareness exercise that I would encourage you to do. You could journal at the end of a day before going to bed, just to kind of release all those emotions that you're thinking about, or do it with a cup of coffee in the morning, maybe as you start your day. I went through a retreat once and we had to do some journaling with the other hand, the non-dominant hand. And it was amazing what was suppressed as a result of being able to reflect on some past experiences. And then finally, I want everybody to have a happy place. In my home, it's a sunroom. Two walls of the room are complete windows. And it's one of the favorite rooms that dogs like to go to too. They take a nap there. But if I'm needing some creativity, if I'm needing some refreshing, and I'll even take a nap there, that's where I go. That's my happy place. The fifth type of self-care I want you to consider is for your own personal well-being. Everyone should have a hobby. Maybe it was something that you once did as a kid. My mom was an art teacher, and so I now am getting interested in doing my own artistic crafts. I love to garden. I think it gives me great pleasure to pull weeds. Maybe it's out of frustration or anger, but I've really been enjoying the fruits of my labor, if I were to say so. Listen to yourself. You spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with yourself, and you know what you want to do. You know what you need to do. So be honest with yourself. And then the last part of this is I really want you to reflect on what type of legacy do you want to leave behind. I lost during the pandemic 3 very close friends. One was a client who was only 60 years old. And when I read his obituary that his wife wrote, I thought, wow, to have been described as a father who was a man of his words. I thought that speaks volumes to the character that Ted was. So what I'd like you to do starting right now is to think about what kind of caregiver do you want those patients to think of you as, because your legacy, even though it might be a day or two, is long remembered, because Dealing with your own health is a significant emotional event. Even having to interrupt your schedule to go to an appointment is a disruption. And so whether it was planned or unplanned, that experience in your care is significant. So how do you want them to go back and tell others of their experience with you? And by the way, I believe that everyone is a caregiver in the organization. How would you like to be remembered by your spouse or significant other? What kind of relationship do you want to have and enjoy together? How do you want to be described by your kids? I know that raising teenagers, and I've raised 2 stepchildren, I grew a lot of gray hairs, but I learned some fabulous lessons. I learned about myself, and luckily they're still in my life, even though their father is not. And then the fruits of my labor is now I get to have some time with grandchildren. I'd like for you to think about how would you like to spend that time and making those memories. The 6th self-care is space. And when we think about space, I want you to think about 2 things as it relates to safety. I know in healthcare, you're all about safety. And boy, oh boy, has infection control gotten some good press through this pandemic. But I also want you to have safe conversations. Yesterday, I was facilitating a leadership retreat, and we were talking about the difficult conversations that leaders have to have. And it's not fun. It's not a fun part of being, whether it's a leader or even as a child and having to parent. But those tough conversations are really what establishes your credibility and ultimately the results that you get in a relationship. And so be brave to have those meaningful heart-to-heart conversations. Be aware of your own situation, your own feelings, people around you, and be transparent. I'm certified in a beautiful program called 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team, written by the best-selling author Patrick Lencioni. And it's based on 5 behaviors. First is trust. And you can't resolve conflict without vulnerability-based trust. And what that means is being willing to be vulnerable. And what that means is if I don't know something, I'm the first to admit it because I don't want to try to mask and pretend. People can usually see right through your insincerity. So being willing to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. Or does anyone else know? Because I'm humbled by the fact that I'm not the only expert in healthcare. There are a lot of intelligent people that have a lot of best practices I learn with right along with everyone else. The other part is being willing to ask for help. I know that oftentimes people don't do that because they feel that it's a sign of weakness, but I believe that we all have limits. And I think sometimes somebody else could do a job better and faster than we could. Develop routines. This was something that Greg and I really enjoyed. I've been dating a doctor now for about 4 years. And one of the things that we've enjoyed through the pandemic, especially when restaurants were closed, was to come back home and we would fix dinner together. He is a gem. He loves to work in the kitchen with me. And I think it was part of his release as well as my release for the day. But that was kind of our routine, along with some binge watching. We can't wait till Yellowstone comes back on air. Clear the clutter. I believe in feng shui. So one of the principles of feng shui is to manage your energy, and clutter is the #1 strain on your energy. So I've been doing a lot of cleaning out. I've cleaned out closets, I've cleaned out garages. In fact, I've even sold some things that I've been hanging on to. I've even donated things to my grandkids. I've taken them to Goodwill. So it's really just a cleansing. The 7th is financial. Now, I know as a healthcare professional, I know you're referred to as a hero, but I know full well, and I've heard, being a hero doesn't pay your bills. And so my heart goes out to you. The only thing I can tell you as well, my livelihood as a healthcare consultant evaporated. So once the pandemic hit in March of 2020, my calendar of bookings vanished. So I will say that I can feel your pain. So here's some suggestions. Think about what you want to save for a rainy day. Do you archive off your paycheck each time you get paid some money into savings, and maybe you can be investing it away for a vacation or your retirement plans. Set limits, give yourself a boundary. Maybe it's how much you take out of the ATM machine. Give yourself a budget and you're not going to charge it. You're only going to use cash. Speaking of credit cards, pay them off. One of the worst things to do is to feel like you're getting buried in credit card debt. My second husband got me into some real financial struggles, and it was tough to get out of that. Especially one of the reasons was he had some major significant health care, and we were just trying to get our heads above the financial debt that caused. But treat yourself. Maybe after a long day, you have a glass of wine. I guess I can say that because maybe you are enjoying one tonight. But to me, sometimes I just like some candy. I don't usually eat candy, but every once in a while I'll get a Snickers, and it's just one of my little treats. And then a couple of other financial suggestions that I would give to you to help save time. If you can, use auto pay. If your bank allows you to set it up, a lot of times the utility companies will allow you to set it up, but that's one less thing that you have to do each month. And then the last is more from a tax perspective. I'll encourage you to have a disciplined system for keeping track of your records. I will encourage you to have a tickler system that maybe is set up from January through December. And in each month, you put all of your receipts. My tax account recently told me instead of doing it by month, do it by vendor. So I have all of my cellular phone bills together. I have all of my credit card bills together. And that at the end of the year, I will tell you, is a lot easier. And then the last way to manage self-care does in fact imply that you're still working. So as long as you are still working, I want you to use the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule was such that they identified 80% of the world's wealth comes from only 20% of its world population. And if you don't believe me, go on a mission. You'll see where people are living collectively in a one-room house, sleeping on the floor. And we're not talking carpet, we're talking about the bare ground. You'll see where people are bathing in rivers, same rivers where the livestock is. But the point of that as it relates to your work is I'd like for you to think about what is it that you do that matters most. As I work with my clients and helping them to achieve the 5-star status, I have each and every employee look at the survey question that their type of patient completes. So whether you work with inpatients, look at HCAPs. If you're working with the clinics, look at CG caps, ED caps, obviously from an ED or emergency department perspective. And it's kind of like giving the answers or giving the questions to the test once the class starts. And so what we'll do is we'll begin with the end in mind. Okay, if you're going to be measured on how often you communicate with courtesy and respect, let's go back and talk about what does that mean? If you were a patient, what would it mean to have someone communicate with respect? So to me, it might mean using my name, Michele, and spelling it correctly. My name is Michele with one N. Clear expectations. And again, no one wants to work long hours, which I know you have been. Again, part of that is making sure that you understand your boss, what your leader, what your patient, what your coworker needs of you. And I believe the only stupid question is the question that doesn't get asked when you have the chance to learn. So make sure that you have clear understanding and expectations. Ultimately, when I work with a leadership or a team, I tell you the ultimate goal when you're at work is to get along and get things done, and you'll get paid. Now, that's a simple concept. I told my 16-year-old when he got his first job, people will reward you if you come into work with a good attitude, being willing to learn and get along to get things done, which means you may not like everyone you work with, but during that shift of time, do your best. Accept them for who they are, wherever they've been and what they know, and appreciate them. It goes a long way. Like I said, ask questions. I think having an attitude of learning is very healthy for the spirit, for the soul, and for the organization. Never stop learning. Don't be afraid to step back and just get some fresh air. Maybe think about it for another moment or two, because you need and you deserve a break. And if you don't, you'll truly be potential for burnout. So I hope you've learned some things that can help you not only personally, but professionally to truly take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be effective as a healthcare professional or a mother or as a father, or maybe you're parenting your parents. So in closing, what I want to do is share with you this beautiful quote from Laura Kelly Finucci. This is, when this is all over, may we never take for granted a handshake with a stranger, full shelves at the store, conversations with neighbors, a crowded theater, a Friday night out, the taste of communion at church, a routine checkup at the dentist office, the school rush each morning, coffee face to face with a friend, a roaring stadium, each deep breath we take without a mask. How about a boring Tuesday or life itself? Because when this ends, may we find that we have become more like the people that we wanted to be, that we were called to be, that we hope to be, and may we stay that way better for each other because of the worst. I want to thank the Louisiana Nurses Association and the Louisiana State Nurses Association for inviting me to inspire you. And I want to close with a congratulations to each and every one of you, and thank you for making a difference.